Welcome to our drive-in theater. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you, one that will provide several hours of pleasurable relaxation and diversion for you and your family. Did you fail to dress up for tonight's show? No tie, an old shirt and slacks, a house dress? Well, don't give it a thought. We're glad you came as you are.
It's Driveway Drive-In with your hosts, Adam and Paul. Welcome to the Monster Room.
Disappeared 2 months later. Legend has it that Jason saw his mother beheaded that night. And he took his revenge. A revenge that he'll continue to seek if anyone ever enters his wilderness again.
Jason was my son, and today is his birthday. That's a good boy. Good Jason.
Jason's out there.
I'm your host, Paul.
I'm Adam.
And we're going to all night long. We just got done watching Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, and directed by
Joseph Zito.
Joseph Zito
Is this guy's name?
And it was supposed to be the definitive end of the Jason and Friday the 13th movies. Was shot for a budget of $2 million, and it made about $35 million, so it was considered a pretty big hit at its release.
Hence why it didn't end.
Yeah,
with this film.
It didn't end. It didn't end. So Adam, I go back and forth on which my favorite Friday the 13th movies are, and Part 4 and Part 6 are my two favorite entries in the series. How does this one rack up against your Friday experiences?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. This is a fun movie. This is a hilarious movie. And, you know, I'm not a Friday the 13th fan that I don't even watch these movies every year at this point anymore. I just at a certain point I just stopped watching them. Yeah. You know, they're not like films where like you discover something new every time you see it. If you've seen it once, you pretty much get the gist. But this is a really good one for me. And I'm going to have to rate this pretty highly. As far as, the scale of the entire series, that's tough. I think right now, it's definitely top 4 for me.
Yeah.
It might actually sneak up into 3 or 2.
Yeah.
Depending on how some of these other watchings go that we're planning on doing. All right. For right now, I'm going to say it's number 2.
Number 2.
Which, going into this, I did not expect like a big leap with the movies or my rankings, but this was just a really funny movie. And
it is.
It's got star power that some of the other ones don't. Like you said before, like you can't beat Kevin Bacon with the first film.
Yeah.
But this one having like Crispin Glover and Corey Feldman, I think really helps it. I don't know.
It does.
They weren't famous when they made this movie, but you know them. And, Crispin Glover was able to up the weirdness factor to about 20 in this movie. And it takes it over the top for me. It was a really fun movie. I don't know.
It is. And this was like the perfect movie when I was growing up, probably between the age of, I guess I was a tween when I first started watching these. And I was just starting to have sleepovers at my friend's house, and we'd have, pizza and soda, and we'd always get the forbidden VHS cassette of Friday the 13th movies.
Say, kind of like we're doing right now, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pizza, beer.
Ranks high because it's got some really great kills in it. It also has some... when I was 13, I was pretty thrilled about the nudity factor on it. And as a 40-year-old man, I'm still pretty thrilled about it.
I mean, like, you can't get away from it. I mean,
you can't.
Look, a factor of these movies will forever be the nudity. It's the kills, and it's the forbidden, like, kind of like sexual element of the movie.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of the movies. I mean, it's the quintessential Friday the 13th movie, I think, for me, as far as the kills and the nudity and the teenagers doing things that they shouldn't do, and Jason coming to rectify what they're doing. I don't know, just I had a great time watching it. But.
Yeah, and there was like a character that you could relate to, and everybody knew somebody that was in this movie.
Well, I said to you that, like, a lot of these right now, the 80s is everywhere.
It
right?
is.
The 80s, Stranger Things, and some of the movies that like try to replicate the 80s, they get it to a point, right? With the clothes, it's easy to put the music on.
Yeah.
But the weirdness of the 80s is missing in all of these shows. The 80s were bizarre.
It was.
And like people don't remember that, or at least they don't like to reflect that in like, Stranger Things or like other shows and movies that try to, replicate the 80s. The 80s were nuts.
They were.
And because there was no social media, nobody was called out for anything.
No.
And you could just be as weird as you wanted to be. And like this, is a perfect example of that. But just real quick, you had mentioned that this one has one of the best kills of the series. And I thought it was really interesting that Tom Savini, this is the only... the second of the Friday movies that he did. I, for some reason, was under the impression before we saw that he was involved in some capacity for, I don't know. Maybe
Parts
not
2 and 3.
I don't want to say the majority of them, but maybe a lot of them.
Yeah.
I was really interested to know that it's 2. He's only been involved in 2.
Yeah.
But you could really see his presence in this movie, like with the kills. Yeah. The kills were fantastic.
They were. I'm going to play a clip real quick of a scene where they are traveling to the cabin that they rented near Crystal Lake. And it's like a vacation home more than a cabin. And the weirdness of this conversation where somebody believes they have a computer in their head. And it ends with basically how we all felt when I was 13 years old watching these movies. So let me go ahead and pull up this clip real quick.
Broke up. DJ Betty, so to speak.
And
would you lighten up on her? She's all right.
Why don't you just let us the map?
I'll say she's all right. You should have treated her right. I mean, that girl wanted to be treated right. I did. I treated her right. That's what's driving me so crazy. I mean, first I would call her and she would take my calls, and she would have something that she'd have to do, and then she wouldn't even take my calls. I mean, can you figure that? What the fuck happened?
Let me put in the old computer.
No, I'm serious about this.
The computer don't lie. Now, let's see. What? It says you're a dead fuck.
What? A dead fuck?
A lousy lay. You know? A dead pig.
Oh, I see. Oh, don't hold it back from me, Doc. I can take it. Give it to me straight.
I did not say it. The computer did.
Yeah, well, there is no computer.
Aha! And there's no Betty either.
And I'm a dead fuck.
Like I said, the computer don't lie.
God, I'm horny.
So the God, I'm horny. And, you know, I hate to say it, but you know, if you were a teenager, and I'm sure most of us were that were listening to this, you could echo the same sentiments. And then from here, they go to the party, which is at the house, the lake house, the rental. I don't know what it is, and I don't know. It's the most accurate representation of every party I've ever been to at high school. And it's like, do you remember? Okay. Like, there's a party on the calendar, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's for homecoming or just a random party. And every single party, you were like, okay, I'm gonna hook up with this girl. This is going to happen, right? And you put all your efforts into it, throughout the school year to make that happen. And then the party happens. Basically, everything that you expected to happen at the party doesn't. It gets turned on upside down. And
it starts with Crispin Glover's epic dance scene, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend.
I've tried that technique, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
It's basically to flail your arms and just act like you're a 5-year-old. If you haven't seen it, YouTube Crispin Glover dance scene on YouTube. It's hilarious.
It's amazing.
It's life-changing. But anyway, life imitates art. And if you've ever been in that situation where you're pining for some girl and you get to the party and suddenly she's, I don't know, hanging out with the football team and you're not a football player. And then, at the end of the day, you start making out with, the clarinet player that you've only said 2 words to the entire year. You'll see some familiarity with this movie because basically it's just that chaos of high school where everybody likes everybody, but on certain levels, and everybody tries to get with everybody and it's just crazy. But I don't know.
Yeah, they have the party, and they have the traditional somebody goes off because they're mad, usually a girl, and
the girl always walks away mad.
Yeah,
and the guy always has to go chasing after her.
Yeah, and that's a recipe for death in these movies. So I think this one is great because she goes for an anger swim, and again she decides that she's not going to even.
You remind me of Brett in Flight of the Conchords. Like when Brett is angry, he dances.
Yeah,
she goes swimming.
Yeah,
that's how she works out her angers, when she goes swimming.
Yeah, and they have like one of the first kills of the people. She of course has to swim nude because she didn't pack a bathing suit, and she finds a raft, and she gets in the raft, and Jason impales her from the bottom of the boat, yet the boat doesn't sink.
That was curious.
Yeah, that was curious.
Was her body blocking the hole? It doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, the raft was still floating.
It was, and there was a heater in the raft, and that was because the actor who played Jason in this was the hero of the movie, because the young woman who was playing the role, who died in the boat, she was so cold and she was crying, and the director, the actor playing Jason said that he would not do this movie if he didn't get her a heater and some blankets so that she could cover herself between takes, because she was completely nude and freezing on a very cold Crystal Lake.
Right.
So Jason stepped up to help out his actors.
Good on Jason.
Yep.
I did want to backtrack a little bit here. I don't know. It's significant to this movie, I think, and I don't think we mentioned this yet, that this is the introduction to the Tommy Jarvis character.
Yes.
And Tommy Jarvis, is up until Friday the 7th or 8th.
New Blood, yeah.
Tommy Jarvis is the closest thing to an adversary that Jason has, right? And he, he's the closest thing to a recurring character. I think he was in 3 of these movies.
Yeah, because the first 3 movies just basically ended with a final girl.
Right. And Corey Feldman is Tommy Jarvis here. So he's probably, 7 years old in this movie, 8 years old?
Yeah, he's pretty young. They kind of allude to with him in the ending that he was going to pick up the torch of Jason.
Right. And those endings never come to fruition, because they did this exact same thing at the end of Halloween 4, which I know is not your favorite in the series. But, however, it is significant because Tommy Jarvis, at the end of this film, they were basically signaling he was going to be the new Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, and even in the following film from this, which is the one that I never watch, which is A New Beginning.
Part 5, yeah, because it's not, and I'm sure, horror fans watching it, it's not Jason. Why would you want to watch that one?
Yeah, it's not Jason. It's not even Tommy Jarvis.
The unsolved mysteries of the Friday the 13th. Yeah, it's just some killer.
Paramedic.
Right.
Yeah, it's the paramedic.
Right.
In that. Sorry if that's a spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler.
Spoiler alert. It's the paramedic. You're welcome for that spoiler, because it's a particularly not great movie.
So let's go back a little bit with this movie, because we kind of jumped ahead just a tad. But I really liked how it opened up. They showed a little brief synopsis of how the first 3 films concluded. It gave you a nice little, if you haven't seen the first 3, you don't have to necessarily watch it to enjoy this one. They basically told you exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But then they had the amusing scene where, so it's the end of how Friday the 13th Part 3. And Jason just met his demise by, axe to the face?
Yes, axe to the face.
Axe to the face. And So it starts with, the cops bagging evidence, and you pick this up. They're bagging evidence off of the ground with their bare hands, and you said, well, what's the purpose of bagging if they don't have gloves on? And it's like, yeah, they're basically just disrupting the entire murder scene. Yeah. So, I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not effective or accurate police work for sure. In the beginning of
and you wonder why the murder rate at Crystal Lake is so high. And then, you continue on with they're taking Jason's body to the morgue, essentially.
Correct.
Right? And then, little beknownst to everybody that works there, Jason is not deceased. But it's interesting at this hospital because apparently in the 80s, doctors and medical staff were constantly trying to sleep with the nurses. Were you aware of this?
No.
I saw this in Halloween 2 as well, where they're constantly just trying to sleep with the nurses. And, the nurses don't really put up much of a fight. It's always, no, get away from me, you're a jerk, but they always win them over to, having, a tryst in, an abandoned, ER room. They always succumb to the charms of these ambulance guys.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which makes me wonder why a paramedic is the one that's the killer in Part 5.
I have to say that, my mom's a nurse, or she was, and she definitely, I've asked her about this, and she denies it to this day that this is how it goes on in hospitals. But who knows? Maybe she's just telling me that because, I don't know, maybe I need to get a paternity test or something.
Yeah.
But
you could get some doctor money.
I need something. I definitely need something.
Let's go ahead and pull up this clip.
Which one is this?
This is going to be the nurse flirting with, I don't think he's a doctor. I think he might be an orderly. Or he works in the morgue.
I do like that horror trope where it's the guy who's not grossed out by dead bodies and kind of just eats on them and uses them as tables, because that's what this guy does. They're bringing the Jason body in, and he puts his donut on top of him, he's a table or something. And I don't know.
Yeah, obviously that's how coronavirus spreads. So
that's how. Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and pull up this clip of with the orderly and the nurse.
Axel?
I'm so glad you could come.
Axel, you are the Super Bowl of self-abuse. I just came to watch the news.
Now back to Dave's business. A tragic story of mass slaves in the local community of Crystal Lake.
Thank you, Bill. And so begins yet another chapter in a story most residents of Crystal Lake had prayed was over. A trail of mangled bodies has finally led local authorities to conclude that...
I really came to watch the news.
We're still awaiting positive identification of the body, the perpetrator's body. But to answer your question, yes, the man responsible for the murders in Wessex County this past week is at this moment in the Wessex County Medical Center morgue.
Yay!
Thank you, Officer Davison. That's welcome.
That's you they're talking about on TV, pal.
Agree that tonight
I don't believe you, Axel.
will be getting their first good night's sleep in a very long time. Local law enforcement the way it will always be known after Crystal Lake Massacre. And now back.
right, so she says, I'll tell you where I'm going. I'm going crazy. And I did highlight that because that's ridiculous.
It is.
It's a ridiculous retort. You could only get away with it in the 80s. And I did also want to highlight, I mean, you can't hear it in the video, but the guy that she's making out with, the guy that's, trying to seduce her, prior to this is watching this exercise video.
Oh my God.
And the video is just, apparently there are interesting exercise techniques in the 80s. It was just basically 4 or 5 women in leotards, all bending over in a circle and like gyrating, almost like a Sir Mix-a-Lot video.
Yeah.
And
I think that was like the Buns of Steel videos.
I've been to my Anytime Fitness at least twice in the last year, and I never saw that class. I never saw the bend over gyrating class.
No.
And I've been looking for it.
That must be early in the morning.
Yeah, apparently. But anyways,
how else are you gonna start your day?
That's how they sold me on the membership, though, was this class.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. All right, so anyway, I'll tell you where I'm going. I'm going crazy.
Yeah, so Jason's going to start making his way to the camp, and we get his first outdoor kill while we're meeting our characters.
Was that Rosie O'Donnell, the hitchhiker?
Yes.
Okay,
so yeah,
let's talk about that one for a minute. I mean, it's younger Rosie O'Donnell. Like hippie Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, she's got the sign that one side is like
very flowerful, very but like
but then she flips it over and it says like F you, and that's.
Anyway, that is Jason's first kill, is Rosie O'Donnell, the hitchhiker, and he gets her with a knife right through the throat.
Yeah, he apart from the orderly and the morgue guy and the nurse who's going crazy,
right?
But that's his first and the people slow down by the Pamela Voorhees gravestone,
which is just like a fire hydrant on the side of a road.
Pretty much.
It's not like sacred at all. It's just like an object on the street.
It is.
Just a gravestone just sitting there.
Apparently 3 people died in Crystal Lake or were buried in Crystal Lake, and one of them is Pamela Voorhees.
Yeah, that's it. It's the only people that ever died there.
Yeah. Which, the movies say otherwise, but sure, I guess they wouldn't want to be buried there.
And while this is going on, we're also introduced to Tommy's family, which is his mother, his sister, and himself, obviously, which live in close proximity to the rental house that the party is going on.
Which seems kind of strange because, I mean, I didn't gather from the movie that they owned the property that the kids were renting.
Yeah, it didn't even seem like they lived there full time.
Yeah, and
like maybe the dad's out of the equation and they're just like living there to
Well, I know the parents are separated. They said, Tommy says to Rob, the Rob character, but they do. But yeah, it's like you have this house in the woods, and then you have a house that you share a driveway with, and there's nothing for miles. I don't understand the development plans for that.
Well, like the mom does for a living.
Yeah.
I mean, the only notes that I have, and I do take notes while watching these movies sometimes, is that the mother and daughter have perfectly coiffed 80s hair. And that's probably as far of character development as you get with those two.
Yeah. I mean, Samantha does fight Jason at the end, but
she does. I mean, she's kind of a badass, but leading up to that, there was nothing leading you to believe that she was.
No. No, and I mean, she did jog.
I also wanted to point out, okay, so there's a scene where the party goers, the out-of-towners, right? So they're next door to the Jarvis house, and there's a scene where Tommy Jarvis is kind of spying. You remember this scene?
Yes.
Through the window, and like one of the guy's girlfriends is kind of like getting undressed. You just see like her back. It's nothing like gratuitous, although there are gratuitous parts in this movie. But anyway, he's flipping out. He's completely spazzing out, like headbutting his pillow. He's basically doing backflips because this girl is getting naked, and he's like watching it through the video. And I'm just like, through his window. And it's just, I wrote down, what a natural reaction.
Yeah.
Like a 10-year-old kid seeing
when I was
like a naked lady. Like that's
when I was watching
what
this,
you would do.
When I was 13 years old, I'm pretty sure I had the same reaction as Tommy.
Pretty sure I had this exact same reaction all throughout my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
You know, you're just like, oh, wow. Like, how did I stumble into this?
Yeah.
It is what it is. Okay, so then you have the obligatory scene where the one friend, and we might have to Wikipedia these people's names,
okay,
to talk about it intelligently, but the friend who was getting undressed in front of the window, she's talking to her less conservative friend, we'll say.
Yeah.
And more conservative friend about, just the number of people that she slept with, and, what are your plans for the party? And, she's kind of admonished for, her low number of sexual partners, and it's just... Yeah, that's slasher 80s for you.
That is.
And then, like, along the way, the party goers, as they're hiking, they meet the twins.
Yeah.
The Spearman twins, and these two, ladies riding their bikes, and that turns into an event, and they go skinny dipping.
Despite wearing bathing suits.
Well, that's the thing. Like, the twins are wearing bathing suits, yet they still go skinny dipping with the rest of the... It's like it completely defeats the purpose of a bathing suit.
Yeah.
Like, I thought skinny dipping was last resort.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean...
I didn't think that's what you, like... I don't know.
I mean...
If you have a swimming suit on, and it's a lake... It's a lake.
It's not like a pool.
Right. It's a lake. Lakes are dirty. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
There's parasites. There's,
Somewhere along the way, Rob the Hitchhiker is introduced.
Okay.
What do you think of that character?
Rob's pretty great. They kind of do like a... Yeah.
It's like a red herring almost.
Yeah. It was kind of a creepy introduction, and honestly, I never understood the red herring aspect to the Rob character that they kind of did with him, because it's established pretty early on that Jason is the one that's killing everybody. We all know it.
It's just the fourth film in the franchise. So
yeah,
there's no bait and switch tactic that can work right here. But it really seemed, doesn't it, that like someone decided, like, okay, they're going to try to make us believe that Rob, the camper, is the killer in this.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird misfire in the movie, because there's no surprise that it's Jason. I mean, they show Jason with the mask in the hospital, so why would they show?
Maybe I don't know. Like, did they show the mask in the hospital?
They did.
Because my thinking is, and this is something else we talked about, and in prior movies, okay, they show Jason a lot. Right?
Yeah. In
this movie, they don't show Jason at all, really.
Yeah.
They show the killings, but it's always kind of like POV.
Yeah.
You don't really see Jason until the end. So, I don't know. Were they maybe doing a red herring, almost like a Jason Friday the 13th 5 early, where they thought maybe they could trick you where it's not Jason doing the killing. Jason really did die in in part 3, and this was just some random serial killer. I know I'm stretching it here, because that's the only explanation that I can give for Rob. Yeah, the character of Rob.
Yeah, and I mean, it gave Tommy something. It gave Samantha, like a romantic interest. And I think that worked on some levels, but yeah, the whole mystery around him, like when Samantha meets Rob in the woods and he cuts his own tent with a machete in the rain.
His last name is Red Herring. It's Rob Red Herring. Right? That's his full name, because he has the machete. He's got the knife. He fixes her car with the knife.
Yeah, he does.
I've never seen that in a film.
And
you ever seen anybody fix a car with a knife?
Yeah, and they played the Jason music with him a couple of times.
And he was the right height.
Yeah,
to be Jason. Which is why it was like really strange to me. Like they throw a red herring into a film where like you already know who the killer is.
Yeah,
it's just a strange choice. I mean, it didn't take it away from. I didn't take anything negative from that, but it was just odd.
No, but it was just kind of odd. I was like, so I think forever and on, I'm just going to refer to him as Creepy Rob with a machete.
Yeah, Creepy Rob. Creepy Rob Red Herring. And then, all right, so we've covered the majority of this film, I think, at this point. We've gone back and forth. But the ending is really what most Friday fans think of when they think of this film.
Yeah.
It's the most creative, that's for sure. It's not electrocuting Jason or drowning Jason, or they trick Jason.
Yeah. So Tommy makes masks, and another thing that doesn't make sense later on in the films is because they were kind of setting him up to be the next Jason, but he wasn't. But Tommy makes like monster masks and dresses up like Jason, and Jason sees himself as a boy with Tommy's makeup effects, and then he tricks him, and that allows him to get attacked with the machete.
He tricks him by shaving his head.
Yeah.
But like having like the little weird Jason strands still like hanging on there. Like the mongoloid head.
Yeah.
Which he even continued to wear when they showed him at the hospital. But anyway.
Well, I don't think his hair would grow back that fast.
Well, then you think they would shave the rest?
Yeah.
I mean, they'd do something. They wouldn't just leave.
I mean, that's not a good look.
No. It looked like a hemorrhoid.
Yeah. But yeah, so
it was creative how he was kind of combating Jason with his mind in a way.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, that scene where the sister knocks his mask off, I don't know if I'm wrong, a bunch of people are going to tell me that, but I think that's the first unmasking scene.
Yeah, so they did make a big deal of the unmasking scene.
We know that we saw Jason
at the end
jumping through the lake, which may or may not have been a dream sequence at the end of part 1. But prior to that, I don't believe we've seen his face as an adult.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I've seen 3. That's the one movie that maybe I have to double check. But I think that this is the one film where he did the unmasking for the first time. Yeah. And it's effective.
And it is. And they have the great ultimate kill where his face slides down the machete and
yeah, right through his eye.
Right through the eye.
Eye kebab.
And it's a very Fulci-esque scene where, he gets the eye and goes out the back of his head and then slides down.
Right.
And that's some of Tom Savini's best work right there.
Yeah, it was gruesome. And it was definitely like, you got to remember too, Jason wasn't this like undead zombie. at this point. He was still supposed to be relatively mortal, and seeing something, a machete slide through his skull, piercing the back of it, that was like, okay, he's dead.
Yeah.
Didn't think about seeing him ever again.
Yeah, and then his hand twitches, and then Tommy goes to town with him.
Nuts
with the machete.
Right.
And they don't show him actually hacking him up, but I feel like,
did they? I know that. Okay, I'm jumping ahead a little bit here because that there's the scene at the hospital where Tommy is hugging his sister and he stares kind of crazily at the camera, and that's supposed to set up that he is the new Jason, or could potentially be the new Jason. Other than that scene, did they? I don't know. Hint at that at all?
Yeah, I don't. I think it might have just
that was really abrupt.
Yeah,
like suddenly, I get it. You're a horror fan and you like puppets and makeup and stuff. I mean, I've kind of been ostracized for that in the past. But other than like just liking horror, like, did he ever broadcast? Was there any like clues that he was going to be like the new Jason? I just thought that was weird.
No, but I think being weird was enough in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, Crispin Glover.
Yeah.
He was the star.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Well, he got the corkscrew, so.
Yeah, which is still an iconic death.
It is. So,
I don't know. But I don't know. We were talking prior to watching this, and I was really curious where I was going to rank this one. I know I already did, but pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I have to say, really funny. This movie's funny.
Yeah.
And,
well, it really didn't do well with the critics. And before I get into my review, I want to play this clip from Siskel and Ebert reviewing this because it's one of the highlights of their show was this movie.
Sounds good.
All right, so bear with me 1 second, pulling that up.
Our next movie is Friday the 13th, the final chapter, an immoral and reprehensible piece of trash that sold more tickets on its opening weekend than any other movie so far in 1984, and that is a very, very depressing commentary. It really makes me sad to think of all those moviegoers spending $4.50, $5, most of them teenage kids, sitting there watching this sad, cynical, depressing movie. Now, needless to say, Paramount Studios, the distributor of this film, didn't authorize any clips of the film for use on television. They like to make the money, but maybe they're a little bit ashamed of the movie. They like to hide it from critics like ourselves. But here are some scenes from the Coming Attractions trailer showing that the fourth Friday the 13th movie is just a cynical retread of the first three. Yeah, real great. Jason, you can't hear him, you can't see him, he hardly even breathes. He's the latest word in leading men from the geniuses at Paramount Pictures. You get the idea. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is 90 minutes of teenagers being strangled, stabbed, impaled, chopped up, and mutilated. That's all this movie is just mindless, bloody violence. And just think of the message this film offers to its teenage audience. The world is a totally evil place, this movie says. It'll kill you. It doesn't matter what your dreams and hopes and ambitions are. It doesn't matter if you have a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or you've got plans for the future. You can forget those plans because you're going to wind up dead. There is literally nothing else in this movie. And the sickest thing is, this isn't the final chapter. That's just an advertising gimmick. The ending clearly sets up a sequel. And what I want to know is, I wonder if they're going to be heartless and cynical enough to make the sequel, because why not? They've already taken the bucket to the cesspool 4 times for this sludge. I think the people who made this movie ought to be ashamed of themselves, and that's what I think, Gene.
Yeah.
And I'm going to vote no.
I had a feeling you might. I got as upset as you did. I don't know whether the teenagers, the message will be of this film that the world is hopeless out there, because I think that anybody who sees this picture will see it either the way you did and I did, which is that it's just a mayhem film. You might as well watch car accidents edited together, or they will think it's just a lark and just a fun. I don't think anyone's going to take this as a worldview picture. I really don't.
But wait a minute. See, the thing is, they made the first one. Okay.
I thought it was horrible.
The first one was horrible. Then they made the second one.
Yeah.
Then they made the third one in 3D. Then they made this one. By now, All it is the teenagers go to Crystal Lake and they're killed.
Roger, we don't have a dispute about the film. The only point that I'm making...
It is a worldview. Have you seen all four of them? What are they trying to tell you?
No. Well, they're trying to give kids as a roller coaster ride, and instead of the thing of falling off the roller coaster, it's will you get stabbed in some way?
Will you get disemboweled and eviscerated?
It's a terrible film. I'm just holding you back a little bit from what sounds a little bit soapboxy in terms of kids are going to take this as this is the way the world is. I don't think they'll do that. But what I am saying is this, that the film is literally about stabbing. In other words, if you like this picture, what you have liked, I believe, is the idea that someone will get a stick put through their body, because that's the essence of this movie. And the surprise is, it's not surprising.
I did probably sound a little soapboxy, but I'll tell you, I'm not saying the kids are going to believe that. I'm saying this is what the message is in the movie. Now, I sat in a theater, and I saw this with some kids, and they were, you watch them coming in. It's an R-rated picture. That means most of the people will be under 17. They're 13, they're 12, they're 14.
Okay, it's got to be.
They're coming in. They're sitting there for 2 hours. This is supposed to be fun. They're told it's fun. They see it advertised on television. It did a lot of business. Their older brothers and sisters went to see it. And what do they see for 2 hours? Just cynical defeatism.
It's terrible. It's a terrible film. I think a much more interesting point is that the message that it sends out is not that this is the way the world is, but that now you've really got on the subject, which is that watching girls, and it's mostly girls again, getting stuck is entertainment. See, that's the pornography.
It's really sick.
That this is legitimate entertainment too. That you can go to a theater
and the movie
and pay for
doubled its money in its first weekend. Isn't that wonderful?
I mean, we have it. Gene and Sexual. We're all going to hell. If you like that movie, we're all going to hell.
Well, they've taken the cesspool 4 times. Why not make it a 5th trip?
Yeah. I'd like to know if making that, if they had known of Jason X one day, Jason in space, what would they have said?
Well, this is the last Friday the 13th movie Roger Ebert reviewed up until the remake in 2009.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they
blacklisted it.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
But you know, if I was one of the geniuses at Paramount, I would have put that soapbox speech word for word on that poster.
Or in the trailer.
I think, it's just like, when you're a kid and you watch these movies, and I think that's where a lot of critics fail on slasher films, is like when you're watching them when you're young, it's usually in a party setting. You're usually having a good time with your friends, and you want to see, people are screaming and,
older people have always failed to see the value in these films.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's hard, honestly, to explain it to them.
It is.
You either get it or you don't.
It's...
I don't think anyone that enjoys these films, not anyone, but I think the vast majority of horror fans don't watch these films and say, okay, how can I replicate this in my own life? It's kind of like an escape, just like any other film is.
You can replicate it with Crispin Glover's dance moves.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
That's horrific enough.
Yeah, it's horrific.
It's like me dancing at a wedding. I danced the exact same way.
He was the one that got laid.
Right, that's the moral of the story.
It is.
It never worked for me.
Never worked for me either. So, but, whatever. I've always felt like the critics always just kind of fail to see that these are community movies, and they're really fun to watch in the theater because you hear someone jump or you hear somebody scream, and
not every movie is meant to make an award or win an award, I should say.
Yeah,
it's just I mean Siskel, I will say, was right to a certain extent. These are roller coaster movies. That's what people always watch them. It's the
it's junk food.
Yeah.
It is essentially cinema junk food. And in the case of the final chapter, I think it is in the realm of Funyuns or popcorn or Potato chips.
Yeah.
I mean, it's high quality snacks.
Yeah, agreed. Slim Jims would be my number one.
Slim Jims, yeah.
If you had to ask.
Okay.
But
Cowtails for me.
I remember those.
Yeah, Cowtails were like...
Those are good too.
They are.
But, good movie. I can't wait to watch the next one, whichever one it shall be.
Yeah.
This one is gonna be tough to top.
It is. I think the next one we're gonna do is part 6.
Which we have watched together and do remember enjoying that one.
Yeah, we watched that when we went camping together.
That was prior to me watching this. I mean, I know I've seen this before, but it's been a long time. And, so it'll be interesting to see how these two movies stack up next to each other.
I'm not going to review part 5 because it sucks. There you go. I'm
not watching podcast. 5.
That's
if it's not podcast. Jason. Like, I'm not watching it.
It's not even Jason's mom. It's like
it's some random guy.
It's like Bob, the paramedic.
Yeah, right. It's like some random guy.
Yeah. So there's your review of part 5. It sucks.
Yeah, don't watch it. Reviewers don't watch it.
Oh, that's a double feature. We did 4 and 5. There we go.
There we go.
Driveway double feature.
Awesome.
So yeah. Until next time, feel free to subscribe and share, and we hope to catch you next time.
See you at the drive-in. I'm Adam.
I'm Paul.
See you at the movies.
See you at the movies.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.